Now you got it.
Oh, thank you.
What was it?
It was the permission for Chrome. I thought I had it selected.
The which one?
Permission for to allow the browser to access the camera.
Oh,
and for some reason it wasn't clicked, and I thought they put it in about 3 different places, and I thought I had it. I thought I had it loaded. Okay, you should be okay. Okay. Okay, good. We're good. Oh, thank you.
Oh yeah.
Direction front. Oh yeah, sorry.
Cool
Yeah,
little
go ahead.
webcam, huh?
Yeah, this camera is great. I use it for everything. It was
Follows?
It can, yeah, yeah. So I won't use that for this, but it's a great little camera. It's great for filming yourself too. Sure. Cool. All right. Oh, that's stressful.
Well, I just went and had I got all my stuff transferred onto this computer.
Yeah.
Got a good deal on it. It was like 20
It's a nice.
2,500.
It's a nice unit for sure. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Like I mean,
to buy it new, that's one about $5.
it was a lot. Yeah, I know. I looked it up. It's great. I think it's going to be great. For exactly like I put all my my video software on here, and it just like flies through it. It's just like it's a dream. It's a dream. Compared to my
32 gig, that's pretty good.
My old one was 16, but it didn't have it. Just didn't. It would get too hot. No, what would happen was it would get so hot, and then I had to put a fan, literally a fan underneath it,
Yeah.
so that would work properly.
The heat would shut it
It
down.
was brutal.
No, I took my old MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
I got it refurbished at Simply for like $1,000 something.
Did they replace the battery?
Huh?
They replaced the battery?
Yeah. Anyway, well, I've had that thing for,
I think you said 14 years.
it's a 14-year-old computer.
Incredible.
And I've had it for like 8 years or so, and it's still going. It's just you can't upgrade the
software, the operating system.
but it still works for things like email and
Yeah,
YouTube.
no, it's great for that. No, totally.
Hello, everyone. We're going to get started.
Woo!
Thank you all for coming out. This is so awesome. There's like the bright spotlight on me that I see some of you, some shapes. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Welcome to Local Focus's third Community Planning Matters speaker series. People stand farther away from the mic so there's no feedback. Third one. More to go. Why do I need a script to say my name? Okay, well, I'm Jackson. I'm the MC tonight. And a little bit about me is that I'm a graduate student at the Department of Geography at the University of British Columbia. And my thesis is about the Broadway Plan and Vancouver's housing affordability crisis more broadly. You could call it a trans-oriented development or placement or displacement, depending on how you label it. In my case, I'm studying kind of the rise of supply-side solutions, critically analyzing that, and also kind of more on-the-ground community impacts. I'm also part of the Vancouver Tenants Union in the UBC chapter, and working alongside comrades to educate renters on their rights and fight with tenants against eviction. So yeah, kind of different circles. But before we start, I do want to say that this event is filmed, as you can see, with our fancy camera gear. Yes, woohoo! Thank you, Cliff. And to make it accessible for folks after, and we're also doing a live stream as well. But I just wanted to let people know, in case they don't want to be pictured, just sit closer to the back. Also, the camera can have a hard time seeing you if you sit. So if you want to ask a question but not be filmed, we can make that work, okay? Housekeeping, there's washrooms in the back, both sides, and then there's also water. So take care of yourself this evening, okay? And we're gonna get started. So, about us. Local Focus is a nonprofit, nonpartisan society, and our mission is to deliver a 12-week public speaker series on neighborhood-based community planning, enriching civic dialogue ahead of the Vancouver's 2026 municipal election. Vancouver's legacy of neighborhood-led planning, emphasizing livability, collaboration, social cohesion, and context-sensitive design, has been overshadowed by citywide growth strategies, prioritizing scale over profit. I'm sure a lot of you already know that. And often not, already targeting affordable housing stock. Big no-no, shame. This series will attempt to foster collaboration and recenter public understanding of neighborhoods planning important role in addressing key challenges, crucially supporting and preserving housing affordability without compromising livability, balancing growth with infrastructure, services, and social capacity, and calling for tenant rights and enhancing local democratic participation. So yeah, give it up. By sparking informed, inclusive conversations like what we're doing tonight, we aim to empower residents to talk to their neighbors, to stand up against landlords, institutions, city officials, and developers who comprise our livelihood and propel displacement. By fighting for more equitable, resilient neighborhoods that honor Vancouver's historical planning strengths, we can work together to build a stronger urban future. Tonight, we are joined by Mike Mangan. If you don't know Mike, we gotta rectify that issue because he is a lovely, lovely man. And Mike is a retired member of the Law Society. He retired at the end of 2020 after having practiced law for nearly 40 years. Mike worked in the real estate industry for many years, acting for real estate regulators and associations, including real estate boards. From 2000 to 2009, Mike served as an adjunct professor of law and faculty of law at the University of British Columbia, where he taught real estate law. For 26 years, Mike also taught real estate law at the real estate division of UBC's Sauder School of Business, and Mike is the author of several legal books, including the Condominium Manual. Recognized for his legal knowledge during his law practice years, Mike appeared on CTV, Global TV, Rogers Television, as well as CBC, CKNW, and CFUN radio. He's everywhere. He was also the subject of articles in the Vancouver. Definitely check that out. Business in Vancouver and Victoria Times. He is the recipient of British Columbia Real Estate Association's Robert Lang Award for Professional Excellence. And since retiring, Mike has also helped others pro bono with various real estate problems and wrongful evictions. He's lived in Mount Pleasant for 13 and a half years, and beginning in 2024, he has helped the residents of West 4th Ave and Yukon Street to oppose rezoning for an 18-story tower, which he will talk about later in his talk. But before we introduce Mike to the stage and he gets to share his awesome knowledge, I want to just remind everyone that neighborhood planning is about community dialogue, as we can see here, and we welcome and encourage respectful participation. After Mike's talk, we'll have a Q&A session. Favorite part, that's exciting. Given that we have limited time together, we ask for this Q&A to keep the questions or reflections streamlined and appropriate, simply out of the fairness to others wanting to speak. And each participant will be given about a minute to ask a question, just because we're a little bit tight on time tonight. And we'll allow Mike to be able to have a complete answer. So yeah. And when asking a question, if you're able to, please stand so like the camera can see you. It just makes it a bit better for the recording experience. And when it comes time to contribute, just give me a wave and I'll try to bounce around and get to you. And yeah, and if you're not comfortable speaking, I can always relay the question to you. And awesome, I'm almost done, guys. If you enjoyed this event tonight and you want to help spreading the word on the importance of community planning, please share this series with friends and family. And if you want to support Local Focus, please check out our donate function on our website at localfocus.network. This is a completely volunteer-driven event and it would not be possible without our residents, like you guys, and our guest speakers, and people behind the scenes at Local Focus. Okay, without further ado, please give it up for Mike Mangan.
Yay!
Thank you. So, first I want to thank you myself for coming tonight.
Microphone.
Oh, here we go, sorry.
Where's the grip when you need one, eh?
Yeah. Now, just a reminder to please silence your cell phones. Despite a long history as a lawyer working with the real estate industry, I'm relatively new to municipal housing matters. In September 2024, I was shocked to see a sign at the corner of West 14th Avenue and Yukon Street announcing an application to rezone the site for an 18-story rental tower. I got involved helping neighbors at 14th and Yukon to prepare for a public hearing. Since then, City Council has approved that rezoning application and nearly all other similar ones. I've learned how the city has effectively excluded and silenced our voices as residents, both tenants and homeowners, in the huge changes being imposed on our neighborhood. We all understand the need for more housing, and we don't oppose it, but we want to genuinely participate in the process. The City Council approves tower after tower in Mount Pleasant. Our concerns are effectively ignored. I'm going to tell you how the city and the province took away your voice, especially your right in most cases to a public hearing. Now, it wasn't always this way. Next slide. First, here is a map of Mount Pleasant, so we're all clear on the area we're talking about. Mount Pleasant extends from east to west, from Clark Drive to Cambie Street, from north to south, from 2nd and or 6th Avenue to 16th Avenue. Now, this is how residents genuinely participated in planning their neighborhood, starting with the 1970s, and strata buildings. Likewise, municipalities provided cheap land from their land banks. Since the land cost was low, it was relatively easy to build affordable housing. A classic example is False Creek, where many co-ops, rental buildings, and leasehold strata buildings all sit on City of Vancouver leased land. Even then, citizens resisted high-rise development on quiet residential streets. Here's an example from Kitsilano, where residents formed a human chain to prevent construction of a high-rise at West 3rd Avenue and Balsam Street. Next slide. This is how Wikipedia records what happened. In 1974, the city took steps to incorporate more public input into neighborhood planning. The city opened 7 neighborhood planning offices, which they called neighborhood improvement programs, each of which had a site office. In Mount Pleasant, that office was on East Broadway near Kingsway. Jeanette Havlich worked as a planner in 2 of those neighborhood offices. She recalls that when the SkyTrain system was being planned, the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Improvement Program helped to plan the eventual stations at Broadway, Nanaimo, and Joyce. From 1972 to 75, Dave Barrett was premier. His government actively built more affordable housing, including co-ops, rental buildings, and affordable strata units. In 1975, the subsequent social credit government of Bill Bennett canceled most of those measures. Then in November 1981, the federal government eliminated most federal support for affordable housing. That was part of the famous, or perhaps infamous, budget of Alan McEachran, then Minister of Finance. But the city continued to genuinely include and respond to the views of residents when planning developments in our community. Fast forward to November 2010. City Council adopted the Mount Pleasant Community Plan. Next slide. The city developed that plan after broad public consultation. The plan was just 33 pages long, simple but effective. The plan describes Mount Pleasant's large inventory of relatively affordable housing, including rental and social housing. Next slide. Here's an excerpt from the community Mount Pleasant Community Plan. Now, where did all the city staff go? Do you remember how there used to be a publicly available online directory of senior and mid-level city staff with their contact information? If I recall correctly, at each branch of the Vancouver Public Library, there was also a hard copy available. Somewhere between approximately 2008 and 2011, under Vision Vancouver, the city removed the directory from all public view. Gregor Robertson was mayor at that time. Now, the planners hide from the public behind the internet. For each proposed development, they spent hundreds of hours communicating with the developer, its architects, and other representatives. But they virtually shunned the residents affected. At 14th and Yukon, the planner refused to come to the site to meet local residents. It's a 10-minute walk from the planning staff's offices. He permitted only one phone call and restricted it to 2 residents on the call. He allowed only email communication. This often involved a delayed response or no reply. Now, we come to the Broadway plan. In 2020-2021, the city attempted to inform residents about the then proposed Broadway plan, but this was the time of COVID. The Broadway plan summarizes public consultation this way at page 24. This is what it says. At the time, were you aware of any of these actions? Until I first saw the rezoning application sign at 14th and Yukon, I hadn't heard of the Broadway plan, nor had most of the residents there. Since then, I've learned that most residents first learn of the Broadway plan when a rezoning application sign appears outside or near their building. None of the many residents with whom I've spoken had any idea that the Broadway plan would subject our neighborhood to dozens of massive high-rise towers on our quiet residential streets. In June 2022, City Council adopted the Broadway plan. Next slide, please.
It was not unanimous.
I'm sorry?
It was not unanimous.
You may be correct. Now, next slide, please. The Broadway plan was 500 pages long, and the series of events that bring us to our sad situation today begin with that date, the Broadway plan's in-force date. Now, as part of the Broadway plan, the Mount Pleasant Community Plan was repealed. And this map from the Broadway plan shows the area of the plan. Next slide, please. So the Broadway plan extends from east to west, from Clark Drive to Vine Street in Kitsilano, from north to south, from 2nd and or 6th Avenue to 16th Avenue. But at least, under the Broadway plan alone, we still had public hearings. Next, in June 2024, City Council adopted the Transit-Oriented Areas Designation Bylaw. Next slide. This is often called the TOA bylaw. On June 30th, 2024, the bylaw came into force. For each SkyTrain station and bus exchange, in the bylaw there is a map with a circle drawn around it. For example, here's the map for the Broadway City Hall SkyTrain station. Next slide, please. This is how the bylaw works. For every rapid transit station, every SkyTrain station, whether existing or under construction, within the first 200 meters, towers up to 20 stories are permitted. Within the next 400 meters, up to 12 stories. Within the last 800 meters, up to 8 stories. If it's a bus exchange, then within 200 meters, towers up to 12 stories are allowed. Within the next 400 meters, up to 8 stories. The provincial government compelled the city to adopt the bylaw, but I'm told City Council exceeded what the province required. Plus, City Council can and often does allow extra height if a developer asks. The city gave the public relatively short warning. There was very little public consultation, but at least we still had a public hearing in most cases. On December 12th, 2024, City Council amended the Broadway plan to, as they described it, turbocharge it. Next slide, please. The relevant council report is 353 pages long. According to City Hall Watch, the amendments relaxed requirements for developers and increased the projected number of towers under the Broadway plan from 350 to 550. Now here is a City Hall Watch 3D rendering of the consequences of turbocharging the Broadway plan. Next slide, please. Again, the public had relatively little warning and there was very little public consultation. But again, we still had public hearings in most cases. Then, on October 7th, 2025, City Council mass rezoned Mount Pleasant, Fairview, and a large part of Kitsilano. Next slide, please. Again, the city gave the public minimal warning and there was very little public consultation. On October 2nd, 2025, a short time after the only public hearing, the Vancouver Sun published my op-ed piece describing the dismal lack of notice to the many thousands of affected tenants and homeowners. A postcard and 2 weeks of Q&A online does not amount to substantive consultation for a measure as enormous as this. The online referral report for this mass rezoning was 447 pages long. After a single public hearing, City Council approved this mass rezoning. Now here's a rezoning map from the referral report. Next slide, please. Where's your home on this map? For better context, here is a table showing the new default high-rise heights established in the mass rezoning. Next slide. For example, my home is in a blue area. So, beside my home on my quiet residential block, a developer can build a 9-story tower. There's no rezoning application, no rezoning application sign, no public hearing. All the developer's arrangements are made behind closed doors at City Hall. And this will be the case with regard to any similar developments at or near your home in Mount Pleasant. This means no more public hearings unless a developer wants something more than the mass rezoning already permits. There seems no genuine planning anymore. Whatever a developer wants to build is the plan. Nor have I seen any evidence that the current planning staff actually care about residents' livability. Next, on March 11th this year, the City Council adopted the Vancouver Official Development Plan, often called the ODP. Next slide, please. The ODP referral report is approximately 300 pages long. Again, there was a disgraceful lack of warning to the public. Last Monday, March 23rd, City Hall Watch published my short op-ed piece describing the city's shameful lack of public consultation before City Council adopted the ODP. So long as the development aligns with the ODP and 50% of the square footage is residential, no public hearing is permitted. This is also the end of nearly all public hearings in residential areas across the city. The developer doesn't even have to put up a sign. And again, virtually all arrangements with the city take place out of the public site behind closed doors at City Hall. No public oversight. This also creates potential for corruption. Now city councilors have far less work to do, far fewer hearings, but for the same pay. Oh, but you could still write a city councilor or Shape Your City. If you're not familiar with it, Shape Your City is the city's online discussion forum. I've seen no evidence that the public's comments on Shape Your City make the slightest difference. It seems a hollow alternative for actually talking with members of the public. So, to conclude, the scale and pace of these changes and the relatively short time frame in which they've occurred is unprecedented and breathtaking. All of this has happened in just 3.5 years, nearly all under the current city council. Most Vancouverites only became aware of the Broadway plan and its consequences well after the plan came into force. Since then, the current City Council has implemented the TOA bylaw, the amendments to turbocharge the Broadway plan, the mass rezoning of Mount Pleasant, Fairview, and a large part of Kitsilano, and passed the Vancouver ODP, all with the barest minimum of short notice to Vancouverites, most of whom are still unaware of what's happened and what's going to happen to our city if we cannot restore participation in the planning of our neighborhood and our right to public hearings. We did not elect City Council to give away the city to developers. We are the residents. Mount Pleasant is our neighborhood. This is our home. We are the people who make the community what it is. We pay directly or indirectly via our rent, the property taxes that support municipal services here. We are entitled to much better treatment. We are entitled to have an effective say in how our neighborhood develops and more oversight of the city's arrangements with developers in our community. So what can you do? Well, we have to act. And here are 5 things you can do. Next slide. First, inform yourself. 2 good ways to do that are to subscribe to City Hall Watch, a nonprofit media organization that covers a wide variety of City Hall related concerns and does it very well. Or Brian Palmquist's posts on Substack. And Brian Palmquist will be one of the speakers coming up in the next few weeks. He's excellent. He's a Yale-trained architect with a distinguished career who's had a large hand in many of the most successful citizen-involved developments in the city. Next slide. Number 2, write to the mayor and city councilors. Don't waste your time to shape your city. Now, if one of you writes to the mayor or a city councilor, that is not going to move the needle. But if a lot of you do, that may get their attention. Next slide. Number 3, in advance of the next civic election, go to all candidates' meetings and ask each candidate for mayor or council, if elected, will you vote to repeal the Broadway plan and amend the Vancouver ODP? And ask each candidate for Parks Board, if elected, will you prioritize new parks, community centers, and pools? The city is currently pushing thousands more housing units into massive towers in Mount Pleasant, but without providing more parks, community centers, or pools. There is a municipal election on October 17th this year for mayor and council and the Vancouver Board of Parks and Recreation. Next slide. On voting day, Saturday, October 17th, vote. This is the last bit of voice you have left, the last bit. Put this date in your calendar tonight. Vote for candidates willing to repeal the Broadway plan and amend the Vancouver ODP. Next slide. Go to all candidates' meetings and vote provincially. In advance of the next provincial election, go to all candidates' meetings and ask them, if elected, will you vote to repeal provincial housing legislation, making mandatory, firstly, the city's transit-oriented areas designation bylaw, and secondly, the prohibition of public hearings when a development aligns with Vancouver's ODP and the project square footage is at least 50% residential. And on voting day, vote. Now, last 1 or 2 items. Next slide, please. If any other group would like this presentation, please email Local Focus Civic Network, and their address is there. I want to also remind you that the next lecture in this 12-part series will be that of Dr. David Lay, and his lecture will be on the future of Kerrisdale on Wednesday, April 8th at Pacific Spirit United Church. Dr. Lay is a UBC Professor Emeritus, former head of UBC's Department of Geography, an officer of the Order of Canada, and a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. Last slide. Local Focus is a nonprofit society. If you found this presentation helpful, please consider leaving a donation in the donation box or on the table if you have any cash that you carry, or online to help us cover the rent for the Anza Club tonight. And I want to thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mike. Lots of things to think about, some solutions on how to think forwards. Maybe we can all brainstorm more solutions, or if things are new to you. I hope that takes something away from tonight. Thank you, Mike. So before we start our Q&A, I just want to say a little reminder. I'm gonna leave that slide up. So for the Q&A, we all seem like we're getting close together, but I'll remind you that questions and reflections, we'd love them to remain streamlined and succinct, and simply out of fairness for others wanting to speak. And yeah, each participant will be given like a little bit of a time constraint of like about a minute or so. But this is where dialogue happens. This is where we want to bridge the gaps. So we're gonna get started on our Q&A. And yeah, we have some time together, so that's great. I'll be circulating around. So like I said, put your hand up if you'd like, and we can get it going. How about we just do one more round of applause for Mike? Let's do that. Who wants to go first? Oh, we got a hand in the back. Yeah, I'll make my way over. Maybe I'll get to my step goal today. Maybe introduce yourself if you're comfortable, maybe where you're from, like neighborhood-wise, just to kind of, get a sense of the community.
Thank you very much. Serge Corbeil. I live in East Vancouver. I don't live in Mount Pleasant. I refer to where I live as the deep east of Vancouver, so the Renfrew-Rupert area. Thank you for your presentation. I think it applies to many, many neighborhoods in Vancouver. I know the focus tonight is on Mount Pleasant, but this current city council has decided to mass rezone the city under the premise, and my question will lead to that, under the premise that if you say no to that, you're against affordable housing, you're against the idyllic neighborhoods with young families playing in the parks, rolling down the street. So you're the enemy of those people if you oppose this mass rezoning. And I think the main point is that it's not necessarily saying no to projects, but it's saying yes to having a voice on a project by project that are presented to City Hall. Renfrew-Rupert, for example, they've the TOAs there, it's the same but on steroids. They're doing an experiment, a social experiment in that part of the city. And there's also 2,200 parcels of single family homes that have recently been mass rezoned, automatically rezoned 6 to 8 stories. You don't have a say. The City Hall will say what it's going to be at the permitting, but the permitting is done, behind closed doors with the planners, and you find out that it's happening the day you see the house next door and you're being demolished, and you question what's happening here. So how do you counter this idea that if you say no to this, you're the enemy of those young families and affordability? Sure. Thank you.
Well, first, you explain things the way you have. And usually the allegation is that one is a NIMBY, a not in my backyard person, if you raise concerns about what's happening in Mount Pleasant. And that's an oversimplified, ill-informed attack that fails to appreciate that this is our home. We don't oppose more housing. We just want to have a genuine voice in it. And we want to be able to make the case to councillors that will actually listen that we understand the need for more housing. In the case of 14th and Yukon, most of the residents who opposed the rezoning application spoke about their happiness for more housing, but on quieter streets, at a scale and in a character consistent with the neighborhood. 4 stories, maybe 6, not 18. Thank you for your comments. I agree with your explanation. Who's next, please?
We got a little lineup here. We got 1, 2, 3, boom.
This is actually a question for everyone. Who here, with a show of hands, would join a class action about the government employee database if we were to do a class action about the City of Vancouver's employee listing?
In a class action to require them to disclose it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You might try a freedom of information request. And see
Yeah.
how
No, they're not doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I understand your concern. Class actions are very expensive. We're talking hundreds of.
You heard it from the
thousands.
lawyer.
Who's next?
We got a question over here.
I'm not going to stand because I don't have the room, but I'm just going to introduce myself as a future Canadian refugee. But my question is, how far along do you think the province, developers, and the city can progress with the state-sanctioned eviction and constructive taking regimes? Thank you.
Well, both levels of government have the power within their spheres to legislate, and there's a hierarchy. And to some extent, the problems we're dealing with here are the result of the province directing legislatively that the city take certain steps, the TOA bylaw and an ODP by June 30th. So they can take it as far as they want within their jurisdiction. And the way to stop it is to convince the politicians in power to walk things back. It's gone too far. You mentioned developers. I've come to learn that there is a very powerful developer lobby presently in the province at both levels of government, provincial and municipal. When I first got involved, I pulled the 2022 election finance disclosures of all the current city councilors. And with regard to the majority party, there is a clear connection with the developer community. One of the disclosure statements for one of the councilors, the first name was Bosa. And anyone familiar with the industry recognizes the names of not only builders, people involved in large development companies and small, also real estate brokerages, also law firms that do a lot of development work, and architects and others connected with the industry. And so the developers are well funded, and they manage to persuade both levels of government to take all the guardrails off, which is what they've wanted for decades. And they've done it on the excuse that, well, they can solve the affordable housing crisis. So thank you for your question.
Perfect. I got a question in the back, and then boom, boom, across the way. So I got you. Take it away.
Thank you. My name is Michael Stephen. I live in West Point Grey. I'm a member of the Jericho Coalition, which is also having similar issues with proposed 49-story towers that would block views from Trimble Park and block the night sky at Jericho Park and also shade Jericho Park. And my question for Mike is, you mentioned developers advocating for themselves and their interests, but why in essence do you think that this is happening? Why in essence are residents being ignored? Because this happened with the Jericho lands, the public input seems to have been ignored. Is it, I've heard Colleen Hardwick say, she was a city councilor, that it's because the city is desperate for the developers' funds in their budget, and this is essentially their major way of fundraising. And also, is there another jurisdiction that's faced a similar problem and solved this?
Well,
Thank you.
to address your last comment first, I'm told, but I have not myself been able to verify it, that the city's current head planner, Mr. Josh White, formerly held that or a similar role in Calgary, where they rolled out similar measures. The residents of Calgary, I'm told, pushed back hard at the next election. They effectively kicked out the then prevailing party, and Mr. White has since moved to Vancouver, where he's, I think, carrying out a similar agenda, but he's doing it at the direction of City Council. And you ask, why are they doing it?
Because that's
I don't-
incompetent.
I don't know, but my impression is it's an attitude, and it's done for political expediency. It used to be that the city would contribute to housing solutions by contributing land from its land base, which would provide low-cost land for leasehold developments, co-ops, rental, strata, or even fee simple strata, which would be less expensive because the land was less expensive, donated or provided at very low cost by the city. Now, the city is under financial pressure, and I agree with you, they are addicted to the development fees. And they don't want to undertake themselves the funding for affordable housing of the sort that was provided back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. So their solution is to hand it off to the developers and let the private enterprise community provide the housing that they think will be politically expedient to require. And the attitude there is top down. We know better. We're dictating what you're going to get. And I find that very unsatisfactory, to be diplomatic.
And condescending.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's one anecdote. When we were preparing for the hearing at 14th and Yukon, several of our members undertook a lobbying campaign trying to visit in person with as many city councilors as they could. I'm told that after one of those meetings, there was a brief communication with the assistant of one of those councilors. And I'm told, but I haven't been able to verify it with the speaker, but I'm told that the assistant said to the resident of 14th and Yukon, "I'm sorry you have a problem with change." How pompous, how arrogant. If that person's home was under threat, I can't imagine that they would have any concerns about their difficulties with that change. So thank you for your question.
Yeah, I have a question. I think you can hear me without the microphone. Right now, we have a city council. This is one thing I find about political parties in municipal politics, is that one person, the strongest person in that caucus, is the one that drives the narrative. In this case, with ABC, you know who that is. What my question is we all know what we have to do as citizens, but what does if this council gets elected out, and I'm hoping of all hopes that they do, what is the new council who wants to make these changes, what are they going to inherit, and how difficult will it be to get out of this cycle?
Well, the city can pass and repeal or amend its legislation, except in cases where the province mandates certain legislative features. To reverse some of this and walk it back will cost some money. It may involve some lawsuits by disappointed developers. It may involve changing staff at high and mid levels in the planning department so that there is a complete culture change there. But if the politicians detect sufficient support, they'll be prepared to do it.
So there is hope.
There's hope.
Oh, good.
There's hope. But your last bit of voice, if you're concerned about this, is the election in October.
Yeah.
And I encourage all of you to talk with your neighbors about this. We all have different political views. Some of us subscribe to one party or another. But encourage them to vote and vote for people who are going to be prepared to walk this situation back. Any other questions?
Here we got a question over here, and then I see you on the far corner over there, so I see you.
Actually, I have two questions. The first one is, I wonder if we could take a page from, is it Calgary where Josh White is? If we could. I know, was, okay, sorry. If we could take a page from Calgary, see what they did, and try to effect that here. So to study that and replicate their actions. And I wonder if we could somehow stage a number of protests, write open letters, create a lot of noise leading up to the October election, with the idea of getting more support and getting the current ABC out, stalling sufficiently so that there's little they can do in the face of the public outcry up until October, and then vote them out in October. That's the first question, whether you could study Calgary's actions, and whether you think open letters in the papers and protests might be effective. My second question is, you said to try to contact councillors who might be receptive to our concerns. Can you suggest who some of those councillors might be?
Well, presently, it's difficult because I've attended a number of public hearings and I've spoken at several of them. And they appear in most cases to vote unanimously to approve these towers, to approve, for example, the Vancouver ODP, the mass rezoning, and so on. And we all know the council is majority ABC. There is a member from Cope, Sean Orr, and a member from One City, Lucy Maloney. And it's puzzled, and Mr. Fry, Green Party, I'm sorry. Now, I'm puzzled because I would think some of them would be more concerned to slow down some of this, especially the tenant-aligned parties, Cope and One City. I know Mr. Fry has, according to what I've seen in a newspaper article, indicated he's going to run for mayor, and he was speaking about a platform of 6 stories. But he, to my knowledge, has approved virtually every tower application in Mount Pleasant, either with his direct vote or by abstaining, which amounts to support.
Except the one where he lives.
Well, and there have been a few exceptions. The only, one of the, I think, 2 exceptions that I'm aware of was an application for a tower adjacent to Colonel Matthews Park, which is a lovely little park on Manitoba Street between West 10th and 11th. And there's a little playground there, and there are toys left outside for kids. And it's a favorite spot for young families in the neighborhood. Council turned down that tower application because it would have put the park in shade for all daylight hours. And that's one of the rare exceptions, but they've approved virtually every one of the rest of the tower applications in Mount Pleasant.
We were some of the speakers at that.
Ah.
We lived there.
Yeah, well, congratulations. It's a hard fight. It's a hard fight. We spent hours meeting and helping 14th and Yukon folks organize their presentations. They needed to be evidence-based, not just, well, it's not in character with the neighborhood, it's out of scale. Our people research things like school capacity, park capacity, the impact of thousands or even just hundreds of housing units in that location on nearby community centers and pools and so on. And some spoke very eloquently about the impact of this development on some of the iconic trees on West 14th Avenue in that block. Now, you never know what's going to stick. In this case, we managed to get a concession, though council approved the rezoning application, they imposed some extra conditions with regard to the trees. And among those conditions, they prohibited any access to the construction site from West 14th Avenue. No construction trucks, no smaller vehicles, no construction vehicles that are going to have to come in around from Yukon. And the hope is that will make the project a little more expensive, perhaps a little more difficult, and may perhaps discourage some developers from taking it on. But you never know what's going to stick at those hearings. So you guys did very well. Anybody else? Yeah.
Just over here, Mike. We're gonna have a question in the back.
Sorry.
Here. All good.
Thanks, Mike. I really loved your presentation. My name's Michaela, so I'm like your female version, maybe a little younger. So the construction lobbyists are so powerful. I sort of akin their marketing jargon to trickle-down economics in the United States that worked for years and years and years to convince people to vote against their best interests. And looking at the council, we have obviously the ABC party, but then we also have Cope and One City and Green, who would think would be for more green space, for more not destroying affordable housing. I think the biggest thing that drives me crazy right now is people saying we have a housing crisis when we have empty new builds across the city, block after block after block.
We have an immigration.
We do not have a housing crisis, we have an affordability crisis. And every time a new tower gets approved, affordable housing gets destroyed. I'm lucky enough, I'm third generation Vancouverite. I was born in St. Paul's, my mom was born in St. Paul's. I grew up near Main and 28th. My parents never had a lot of money growing up. We didn't have a lot of money, but we owned our home. I'm a homeowner here. I have friends who rent. I have a lot of friends who rent, families, single parents, and they all live in older apartments and older single detached homes. So my question to you is like, you know, I care so deeply on this issue, and I've gone to meetings with team and with various parties, and I hear people regurgitating essentially marketing collateral from these developers, just sort of attuned to their needs. How can we organize as citizens that understand how important this is and get through that? In my opinion, these multiplexes, all of it is actually destroying affordability. Selling for $2 million, putting a multiplex on a single detached home that could have sold for $1 million.
Sure. Well, a couple of things come to mind. We need a change in culture at City Hall, City Council, and in the planning department. And I think it would be wonderful if we had one dynamic figure, one person who was able to ignite widespread support for our citizens' concerns, our demand to have our voice back and to be heard and to have our concerns weighed and implemented where they reasonably can. If we had that one person who could assemble people at rallies at City Hall, media attention, that I think is the only way, apart from lots of money, to compete in the civic election coming up. And I keep hoping that character is going to arise somewhere. So thank you, Michaela.
I see some people on that side. Might I add too, the affordable housing getting demolished comes with very ambiguous tenant relocation protection policies as well, which I think we don't have time to unpack, but something for everyone to have homework to explore those more as well.
And on Jackson's comment, one of the things I've seen at public hearings, one of the big values of a public hearing is that tenants can come and speak. And I've heard tenants speak very eloquently about their difficulties in being evicted for a new tower and the problems with the tenant relocation and protection policy. The policy sounds great, but there are not, in my view, a lot of teeth to it. And anecdotally, I continue to hear stories from tenants who have had nothing but difficulty with landlord developers who are pushing forward with the development, and the tenants are having trouble getting responses to their inquiries about how's this tenant's relocation policy moving forward for me? When do I get some money? What help do I get to find a new place? So tenants benefit from public hearings too. Yes. Oh, sorry, Jackson.
We got two over here.
I'm sorry, I'll let Jackson.
Yeah, she's the boss.
Yeah, we got two over here, and also they haven't had a chance to ask a question yet. So we'll go 1, 2.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for being here tonight. I get nervous asking questions in groups, so it'll just take me a minute to formulate my thoughts. But the main thing is I'm wondering if you're aware now with the transit-oriented area, the false hotel crisis that developers are putting forward. The reason why I ask this is I'm one of the residents of 75 East 8th Avenue. It's at 8th and Quebec. It's a 2-minute walk from here. There's a rezoning sign. So if you want to do the QR code for the Shape Your City, even though it's not the best way, but it's not just 8th and Quebec that wants to develop to a 21-story hotel. It's also 6th and Main, and to demolish the James Black Gallery, which is a heritage house with artists and art studios. And there are also 2 more hotels that are for potential development on Main Street. What has come up is the tenant relocation protection policy, which I'm starting to learn that even progressive city councilors for one city in Cope will be like, oh, you'll be fine with the tenant relocation protection policy, which we're finding that it's policy, not the actual bylaw of the city, so it can't be enforced. So the people who own currently 75 East 8th is Nicola Wealth, but we can never actually find out the owner of the land because it's basically a shell company, like it's not traceable. So there's these things that are coming up. I'm just wondering if you can speak to that, and especially the hotel, this brand new sudden hotel crisis. There seems to be a loophole in the transit-oriented area. It's very difficult on the city with the new hotel revised policy that was, I believe, revised in November 2025.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not at all informed about the hotel crisis that you described. And it's so unfortunate because now, as long as those applications align with the ODP, and they're considered 50% residential. I don't know if how that's going to be interpreted, but assuming it is, you won't have any public hearing. I agree that the tenant relocation and protection policy needs to be fixed. There needs to be some teeth to it. The best we could do in the public hearing for 14th and Yukon was, among our requests, ask that the approval be dependent on compliance with the tenant relocation and protection policy, and that senior city staff be required to provide quarterly reports to city council whether there was compliance. And in the event of any non-compliance, the rezoning approval would be revoked. We asked for that condition, but City Council did not add that when we approved.
Okay, we are coming close to time. We're gonna have one last question. Sorry, folks. One last question, then we're gonna head off. And maybe we can always do a little chit chat after. But keep in mind that Mike has volunteered his time here, so fingers crossed.
Thank you very much. My name is Sylvia and I do live in the neighborhood. And I went to all the community meetings for the Independent, which is on Kingsway and Broadway, one of the first really tall buildings. And I remember the development was supposed to have affordable housing, and they even talked about artist spaces. None of that came to pass. From everyone I talked to that came and attended the meetings, they're all against this development. And they would come in and they would give a presentation, and it's like they were not even entertaining questions. It was a done deal as far as what happened. So my question is, what is considered affordable housing, and are developers who use that as an entree into getting the development then held to actual development of affordable housing? But again, what is the definition that they're using for that? And also, just one more quick question. You had talked about parks. The development that has Steamworks in it, that little paved part, they call a micro park, which is ridiculous. So that's another thing, is I feel like they're just putting a lot of window dressing on these developments. Anyway, thank you for your comments.
I'm sorry, a definition of affordable housing isn't within my expertise.
I might have an answer for that. CMHC, they often based off like that kind of more federal kind of legislation, I guess, but it's defined as like 30% of your income. Yeah.
But are they actually using that to do development?
They're doing like a below market. They're using like market metrics. We can chat more about it after, but it's they use like multi-layers of certain metrics to kind of define what affordable housing is, what's below market.
They're all using that term, and yet none of it's being enforced.
Yeah, affordability also can be challenged too. Affordability for whom, right? Good question. Yeah, so we're gonna finish off. Do you have anything else to say, Mike?
No, just thank you for being here tonight. I so appreciate you listening to my concerns, and I hope for all of us that we can slow this train wreck down.
Let's hear it up for Mike. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's a wrap. Our next speaker series, like what Mike mentioned, is on April 8th in Kerrisdale at the Pacific Spirit United Church with David Lay. And to help provide more opportunities like this, we welcome any donations or community collaborations. And please visit our website and Eventbrite to stay up to date. Get home safe and have a great night. Thank you, everyone.